Hey y'all, my name is Priscilla and welcome back to my channel Bookie Charm. For today's video, I want to talk to you about why I loved In the Dreamhouse by Carmen Maria Machado. So In the Dreamhouse by Machado is a memoir, and it's at its core about an emotionally abusive relationship that she had with her partner, with her ex-girlfriend. And it's a book about her identity, her sexuality, and she identifies as a bisexual Cuban-American woman. And I think I saw in a Goodreads review that this is described as one of the most memoirs out there. And I completely agree. And it's very experimental, but very short and hard-hitting all at the same time. And it just completely blew me away and captivated me as I was reading it. So what was most impressive to me after reading this book was just how exquisite Machado is with her writing and how she effortlessly bends the genre of a memoir, of including prose that almost seem like fiction, but obviously this is nonfiction because this details very intimate, vulnerable moments of her life. If you've read Machado's short story collection called Her Body and Other Parties and enjoyed that, I think that you will for sure enjoy this. I read that book and I liked some of those short stories, didn't get along with some others. But that innovation in her writing, the ability to tell a story that is somewhat speculative fiction, that is horror, that is magical realism at times, that is fantastical, all of those elements that she has in those short stories, she somehow incorporates into stories about her own life. I had very strong reactions to some of these short stories. They're not really short stories, but because this is a book that's written in vignettes, they feel like short stories, and I had very strong reactions to some of them. Machado uses the metaphor of the dream house as a placeholder for her relationship with her ex. And in each of these vignettes, she uses the dream house in some sort of trope or genre or history lesson or commentary on pop culture to understand how she's gotten to this point in the relationship with her ex. Initially, after I read this, I was unsure of how I felt about it, but after sitting on it and reflecting on it and kind of observing and analyzing this book as a whole, I realize how much I love it. It feels very dire in its tone. It feels very immediate and necessary, especially with its themes and direct confrontations with the toxic queer relationships that just aren't discussed and documented enough. Machado speaks very openly about a lot of raw moments in her past, about her sex life, about her partners, one even being her priest. And it's all very hard to read at times, but so very impressive. I also listened to the audiobook, and her narration is particularly emotional, so that's always an avenue you can take if you'd like to enjoy and read this book. I just love how she explores all these topics and how she clearly understands the impact and the nuance necessary to tell stories like this, because although Machado is queer, she's bisexual, she's Cuban-American, she's Latinx, all of these identities she cannot necessarily speak for. This is just her one story. She doesn't want it to plague all queer relationships as toxic or kind of have that impression on her readers, but I feel like you get that sense reading it because she just understands the complexities of these relationships. So that is my review of this book. It's very short, but I feel like it's a very short book, and it's best for you to pick it up yourself because I feel like everyone will have a very different reaction to this. Like I said, they're very short. You know, some of these are like a page or two long, some even shorter. And in the middle of the book, there's even a choose your own adventure sort of element to the story where you can go back or go forward and have a different even experience reading this multiple times. I think I'll just leave it at that. I will be linking my Goodreads review if you'd like to have a written sort of review version of this video format, but that's all that I have to say about this book. I am going to be going to the author signing of In the Dreamhouse this afternoon, so if I can get some good footage from that, maybe I will include it after this review. So that's all I have for this review of this book. Please let me know if you've read this book, if you had similar feelings that I did. Let me know if maybe you want to read it now. I highly recommend you do that. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope to catch you in the next video. Bye.
Bluebeard's greatest lie was that there was only one rule. The newest wife could do anything she wanted, anything, as long as she didn't do that single arbitrary thing. Didn't stick that tiny, inconsequential key into that tiny, inconsequential lock. But we all know that was just the beginning, a test. She failed and lived to tell the tale, as I have. But even if she'd passed, even if she'd listened, there'd have been some other request, a little larger, a little stranger, and if she'd kept going, kept allowing herself to be trained like a corset fanatic, pinching her waist smaller and smaller. There'd have been a scene where Bluebeard danced around with the rotting corpses of his past wives clasped in his arms, and the newest wife would have sat there mutely, suppressing growing horror, swallowing the egg of vomit that bobbed behind her breastbone. And then later, another scene in which she did unspeakable things to the bodies, women, they'd once been women, and she just stared dead into the middle distance, seeking a purgatory where she could live forever. Some scholars believe that Bluebeard's Bluebeard is a symbol of his supernatural nature, easier to accept than being brought to heel by a simple man. But isn't that the joke? He can be simple, and he doesn't have to be a man. Because she hadn't blinked at the key and its conditions, hadn't paused when he told her her footfalls were too heavy for his liking, hadn't protested when he fucked her while she wept, hadn't declined when she suggested that she stop speaking, hadn't said a word when he left bruises on her arms, hadn't scolded him for speaking to her like she was a dog or a child, hadn't run screaming down the path from the castle into the nearest village, pleading with someone to help. It made logical sense that she sat there and watched him spinning around the body of wife number 4, its decaying head flopping backward on a hinge of flesh. This is how you are toughened, the newest wife reasoned. This is where the tenacity of love is practiced, its tensile strength, its durability. You are being tested and you are passing the test. Sweet girl, sweet self, look how good you are, look how loyal, look how loved.